You know, they're selling you all wolf tickets, people. You're eating them right up.
Hey, pussy, are you still there?
I back. Trust me, I back.
But I'm not impressed by your performance.
You'll do nothing. You'll do nothing. Shut your fucking mouth, you'll do nothing. You'll do fucking nothing. Not one of you will do nothing.
I'll tell you what, bro. You know, I was out there, I was fighting all the hitters, bro. You ain't fought no hitters.
Come on, guys. It's normal.
I'm not saying I would fight you. I would kill you.
John, do you think I'm just gonna sit there and let you kill me, John? I mean, really?
No, don't be scared, homie.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
I'm gonna beat you into the living death. I mean, maybe that's your job, but where I come from, you know, people like that get slapped.
That's fucking illegal.
Natia, you just shook up the world. How's that feel?
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
Yeah, this is a simulated death match. And you haven't simulated anybody's death yet.
I said it last year. We're not here just to take part. We're here to take over.
What is the game plan going in against him?
The game plan is you go in there, hit him with some good shit, don't get hit, and come home with a pocket full of cash.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Everybody's on steroids. The whole UFC, everybody.
I'm gonna go home tonight. I'm gonna drink a Coors Light. That's a Coors Light because Bud Light won't pay me nothing.
Do you want to be a fighter? That is my question.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Yes. What is up? What is up? Mixed Combat Radio family, another daily edition of the show. We cover all things boxing and MMA and everything in between. You can call in live 323-870-4051, or if you're international, email me, mixedcombatradio@gmail.com. I can get you that international link. We already got a caller from the UK on the link already. I don't think he's called in to MCR yet, even though he's like a dear friend of mine and who like texts me and shit. You know, just shots at him. Just saying. Finally on the show, you know, and it's not even Rob, you know. Another shot. Just kidding. But anyways, we have so much to get to. Obviously, it is Spence Garcia. There's some news coming out with that about it being pushed back to 2019, and I'm going to go on the record saying that that shit is canceled. It's over. It's over. Like, let's stop hyping it up. It is what it is. I think that's the low-key, like, hey, this fight's not happening, but we're going to get into that. I'm going to go deep dive on that. Obviously, it is preview day. Obviously, we have the top-ranked Beltran versus Pedraza card with Isaac Dogboe on that card. Fantastic little doubleheader there that should produce definitely exciting action. Obviously, Friday has a good PBC card on Fox Sports 1 that we're going to dive into as well. And obviously, UFC Fight Night Lincoln on Fox Sports 1 as well on Saturday. We're going to delve into that as well. Justin Gaethje versus James Vick. And obviously, it wouldn't be MCR without some breaking news literally as we started the show by way of Kyle. I don't know who broke the news. Kyle definitely sent me a link via text. That'd be awesome. But it looks like Chris Cyborg versus Amanda Nunes is official for UFC 232, December 29th, which I believe is in Vegas. So that should be fun. Definitely cannot wait to chop up that one in the MMA portion. And we are going to start something new in this show. And I know this is a lot of housekeeping news before we get into anything. Remember, hit the like button, subscribe, share the show. We will take callers midway through the show. So when we get done with all the boxing topics, fights, all that stuff, we will take some callers. So all of you only boxing fans that always give me shit for then going to MMA and you guys have to wait to call in, this is supposed to alleviate some of that. I didn't want to split the show in two. I just didn't like that concept in my head. You know, I've been working, sort of over here with Santiago and others about how to sort of fix the show or make it better, improve it. And the idea of splitting the show just wasn't appealing to me. So this, I think, is going to be a good quick fix for now until maybe we think of something else to do. So callers midway through the show will happen. So if you want to call in for all the boxing stuff and not the MMA, or you can even call in twice. That is completely possible. Like if you want to call in for the boxing part of the show and give your take on that and then call in afterwards and talk about MMA, you can. So make sure you call in now, 323-870-4051. Or like I said, if you're international, email me, mixedcombatradio@gmail.com. A free link I can give you so you can get in and talk on the show because Skype is not working at this point. I do apologize. We are trying to work on that as soon as possible. But all of that sort of housekeeping news out of the way, table all that stuff. Remember, patreon.com/Mixed Combat Radio to help support the show. And quickly, everyone in the chat, main event Mark, Bayside Boxing, Kyle, Fighter IQ over at TBV, a.k.a. Ron, the Mastermind. Shout out to you. I think it's the Bayside Boxing already. Wayne, Ellie. I think Nigel was here before she fell asleep. Sorry to the UK. I know we are late. I do apologize. Lord Jacob, which reminds me, hipsters here. Haters beware.
I want smoke.
Robieski and Rick, all pound for pound supporters right there. Salute to all of you. Let's get into the show. And I do apologize for the long intro and all the housekeeping issues we had to sort of deal with and discuss. But let's get into fights because it is preview day. And obviously we're going to start a little bit chronologically, even though the top rank card is, I would say, the marquee event, obviously, in the boxing weekend. Let's start chronologically on Friday on PBC on Fox Sports 1, which will add a 90-minute prelim telecast on the same network, I believe. I don't think it's going to be on Fox Sports 2, so that is good to hear. But definitely, I mean, some really good fights. I shouldn't say fights. A lot of good prospects on this card. F.A. Ajabi, who is a stellar heavyweight prospect, who was last seen knocking out, I forget who he was, but it was in dramatic fashion, Antonio Russell, a.k.a. Antonio Russell, one of the Gary Russell brothers. Jamal James, who just knocked out Diego Chavez, on the card. Jamonte Clark is on the card. Willie Monroe Jr. is on this card, obviously, as he's now an Al Haymon fighter. Caleb Truax, coming off the loss to James DeGale. There's a lot of names on this card that I can't wait to see, and I hope we sort of get to see all of them. It may not be the all these big competitive fights. There's a lot of prospects and probably showcase tune-ups. But that's okay when you're dealing with 6-0 prospects, 4-0 prospects. I'm okay with that. And you know what? When you package an entire event basically around, hey, here's all of our prospects we have in our stable on one card. You can watch all of them on the same network on the same day. I'm sold on that. Give me that any day of the week, and I will take that. So just want to quickly shout out to all those fighters, prospects. Leon Lawson III's on it as well. He's a phenomenal prospect, undefeated. There's a lot of names here. I think counted 8 undefeated prospects on this card. And then on top of that, guys like Jamal James, guys like Caleb Truax, guys like Willie Monroe, who've sort of been here a while. I'm hyped on that. Eric Rose is saying Truax is fighting a 15-10 Brazilian guy I never heard of. That is definitely true. I mean, let's be honest. All of these are showcases, like I've said. But I'm okay if you package a bunch of showcases up and, hey, here's all of our showcases for all of our prospects in a row. Like, I like when Top Rank has, Michael Collins, Shakur Stevenson, Michaela Mayer all on the same card. I like that. I think it's smart. I love the next-gen cars over in Matchroom. I think that is just phenomenal ideas in terms of packaging, honestly, non-competitive bouts, but with names you want to promote and package them all together. I think it's awesome. It probably, lowers your overhead because you're not paying all these guys a lot of money, let's be honest. The purse just came out for a little bit off topic, but the Jesus Rojas, Jojo Diaz fight, they both got paid split $110,000. Jesus Rojas got paid $60,000, and Joseph Diaz got paid $50,000. So imagine what guys like F.A. Ajabi, guys like Leon Lawson, guys like Omar Juarez, guys like Caleb Truax, Jamal James, they're not making much. So this is a pretty cheap event to put on, in my opinion. And again, it should showcase them on a night where there's not much to compete with. So I'm hyped on that. Let's move on to the marquee event. Obviously, Ray Beltran versus Jose Pedraza, and then Isaac Dogboe versus Hidenori Otake, I believe is his name, or at least how to pronounce it. Definitely probably wrong with that. Let's be honest. Ohio wins boxing. What's up, Ohio? Been a while, man. So let's see you. But let's get into it because I think this event, while I think it's only really 2 fights. Like the rest of the card, even though Michaela Mayer is on it against Edna Kiss, which is actually a really good fight and step up in my opinion for her, at least in terms of name value. The rest of the card is, I don't know, indistinguishable of anything else. I think almost all of these fights on the PBC card are better than the rest of the card on the top rank event. But the doubleheader in those 2 title fights should produce amazing, entertaining scraps. I think stylistically, we're going to see some phenomenal inside work from both of these matchups. I'm going to start out with Isaac Dogboe versus Otake. Dogboe coming out with an upset of the year, fight of the year contender against Jesse Magdaleno. I think put a lot of people on notice about how good he is. I think his inside work, his combinations, his shot placement, and then obviously his power. I mean, that's one thing that we saw. And then on top of that, we got to see in the Jesse fight, not him just blow out Jesse and us think, oh, maybe Jesse Magdaleno isn't that good. No, Jesse knocked him down. Jesse was winning that fight. And then Isaac Dogboe adapted, came back from adversity, and won that fight and finished Jesse Magdaleno with brutal, brutal punches. And his game plan and targeting of Jesse Magdaleno's body, I think, is probably a style of just his overall. But that style can really transcend to almost any matchup. You know, a pressure combination boxer that targets the body can work in almost any style matchup if you really think about it. It's probably the most flexible game plan to have because you should do that in almost any matchup. You should work the body in almost any matchup. That is such an obvious tactic to use and strategy to overall try to achieve that Isaac Dogboe does it so naturally that you get almost reminiscent. You get sort of an idea of like an Errol Spence in that weight class with how hard he hits, how vicious those combinations are. And Otake, even though really we've only seen him really once against Scott Quigg and he lost, that was a fun back and forth fight. He is very much in the ilk of like a Kama guy where it's a come forward, aggressive swarmer. I think that's going to play in beautifully with an Isaac Dogboe in terms of entertainment value. I think obviously Otake just doesn't have the firepower to compete with Dogboe, and I think Dogboe is probably going to get him out of there within 10 rounds. It's going to go late, but I just see these two guys meeting in the middle in the phone booth and exchanging combination after combination to the body. And eventually I think just the power and overall probably durability of Dogboe will be displayed in this fight. And he'll come out victorious. I think, again, TKO win late. And he'll get a huge, emphatic fight of the year contender again. Two, I think, in this year possibly, because this fight definitely has that all in the making for it. Moving on to the main event, Ray Beltran versus Jose Pedraza. I'll be honest, even though I think this fight will produce an entertaining scrap, I don't really see the narrative on Pedraza winning. I know Beltran is not the greatest thing in the world. We've seen him lose. We've seen him lose quite often, actually. And even though I think he has gotten better as time has gone on, he's had a little bit of a career renaissance, he is still a very basic boxer that wants to work the mid-range and does really nothing better than Pedraza. The only thing I can really think of is that he is marginally better in pairing shots. Pedraza will likely try to slip and roll with shots and not really parry them, and he'll leave his hands down, and that's how he gets hit a lot. So defensively, I think Beltran is marginally better. But then again, it's not like Beltran has some amazing head movement. It's not like he has the pairing ability of an Andre Ward. That just isn't there. But I do believe these guys are going to meet up in the center at mid-range and put on an entertaining scrap. I think Beltran's going to get the better of it. I think he's just the better overall package and more effective at what he does. I think Pedraza, while being a fun fighter, fun boxer, he's not really a guy that uses his tools to his advantage. He's not really a guy that I think has a style that is inducive to him winning. It just has never seemed that way. He has always fought against, I think, what his coaches have taught him. Just naturally, he is more of a brawler. He is a guy that wants to be on the inside in that mid-range exchanging combinations, but he just doesn't have the power for it, doesn't really have the durability for it. I think in his last couple fights where they've been tune-ups, he's been touched up in them. Go back and watch those fights. They have not been easy for Jose Pedraza. And I think Ray Beltran is just obviously a better opponent than those guys. And even though he's obviously a step below Gervonta Davis in terms of some key factors like the insane power of Gervonta Davis, the athleticism of Davis, but still Beltran's a much better overall package than I think what Pedraza has been dealing with, and he's been struggling with what he's been dealing with. But should be fun fights overall. Let's go to the news of the day. As I said, and as the lead headline of the show, Errol Spence versus Mikey Garcia tabled for 2019 per Steve Kim. And basically, the head of Showtime Sports, everyone's telling Steve Kim and Boxing Scene that, well, because of the holidays, because of Wilder and Fury, it's just not smart to have another pay-per-view on in December in that time frame near the holidays. So we're going to move it back to 2019 in some obscure ether idea of when it's going to be. This fight's not happening. I think, again, similar, I'll put it to like music comparisons. Whenever you hear an artist push back the release date on their album, and it's never really confirmed date, like it's not like April 30th. It's, we're pushing it back to the fall. Oh, now we're pushing it back to the spring. Oh, now we're pushing it back to the summer. When you hear that a lot, the album's not coming out at that time. It's obvious. And I think it's similar to this. Like, we hear like, oh, we're going to maybe make that fight, in the winter sometime. Oh, now we're going to push it back to maybe next year. We don't know yet. It's going to be sometime later. It's just not happening, in my opinion. I think that's a good thing. I think if you're Showtime and overall, these two respective camps, this fight is a short-term money and profile gain that I think has no long-lasting effects. If you're Errol Spence and you beat Mikey Garcia, I think that does little to your profile, even though it might raise it slightly. I think, obviously, if Showtime made a pay-per-view, they would put a lot of, I think, marketing dollars around it. But still, it's not that fight. It's not that transcendental fight for Errol Spence or even for Mikey. Even though, obviously, if Mikey were to beat Spence, it means a lot more. I think there's a more of a dramatic factor to that. It definitely puts Mikey on, the discussion for pound number one. But I just don't think it has that. It doesn't make that noise necessarily that Mikey would want. Eddie Hearn, even though he doesn't deal with these guys, even though he did negotiate with Mike Garcia in terms of getting them a contract, him talking about how much money these guys are probably going to need to make this fight, I just don't see it happening. A lot of things, a lot of red flags are coming up with this matchup to where I think it's basically canceled. I think Al Heyman has talked to Mikey, talked to Earl, and been like, nah, we're good. I've got them to go back to doing their own thing. Mikey's going to fight Richard Comey. Errol Spence is going to fight whoever. Doesn't really care. Do we care at this point with Errol Spence? No. We loved it when he fought Carlos Ocampo, who was nobody. Mikey just fought Robert Easter. He can take a couple tune-ups, let's be honest. So that's what they're going to do. That's their game plan. That's what probably Heyman and Steven Espinoza are discussing behind the scenes, behind closed doors to these two respective teams. Ohio runs boxing, echoing the saying, Spence gains nothing if he beats Mikey. I agree, Matt. Yep, I agree. They're just vastly more interesting fights to make. And even like ideas of like potential tune-ups, like Mikey Garcia versus Richard Comey. Not really a tune-up, obviously, I think, if you know boxing, if you follow the game, but for a lot of casuals, that would be a tune-up, right? But that's an extremely interesting matchup that I would love to see. That would probably be a really fun fight. If Sergey Lepinets can give trouble to Mikey in the later rounds, what do you think with a fast starter like Richard Comey, who has lightning speed, brutal power? I'm not sold on Errol Spence and Mikey. I've said that a lot, and I am completely sold on these in-between fights they could take. And let's be honest, in my opinion, and probably I think for most people, we know that these in-between fights aren't going to lead to Spence-Mikey. That's not the fight they're going towards. If you're Spence, you're going towards a Danny and a Sean Winner. You're going towards a Keith. And then a Terrence, before I think you really think about Mikey. Because, again, it's a short-term money gain. And, again, if you're fighters, maybe you take the money. Maybe you take the few million, whatever it is. But I think if you're Errol Spence and you're thinking long-term about your career, how it looks, your legacy, Mikey doesn't do anything for you right now. It just doesn't. But let's move on to a little bit of breaking news before the show. I don't think it happened during the show, but it happened a little bit before. I think we mentioned Gervonta Davis earlier, switching back to him a little bit. Promoter Eddie Hearn adding 130-pound titleist Tevin Farmer versus James somebody and Kid Galahad as an eliminator on the Saunders-Andrade card for the Zone USA. Go read this report over at Dan Rayfield on ESPN, all that stuff. But Tevin Farmer, Gervonta Davis, officially dead. That's to both of you guys, Gervonta Davis and Tevin Farmer, because that fight is such the obvious fight to make, and it seems relatively easy to make. Even though Tevin isn't a Heyman guy, he's a Lou DiBella guy. Like, come on here. This shouldn't really be that hard. And yet it seems extremely difficult to do that. Main event mark saying no way did he sign them. I don't believe he is signing Tevin Farmer. I believe he's picking up the fight. I will do some research in the break, though, to sort of clarify that. But just, again, I have to do it again because it's ridiculous. How do you not make the common sense matchup that I think still makes money? I don't know. I'm just so frustrated with this whole situation because we're going to get Gervonta Davis versus Abner Mares on Showtime later this fall. We just are. And then we got Tevin Farmer on DAZN. You know, not necessarily them signing him, but him going to a different network, a competing network. God, this is just all sorts of bad. Best not fighting the best. Always unfortunate. And last boxing topic before we potentially go to callers. Inoue versus Juan Carlos Payano is official for October 7th in the Yokohama Arena in Tokyo. So, yes, first, I think this is the first official announcement of this season of World Boxing Super Series in terms of a matchup, in terms of a venue, a location, date, all that stuff. I forget who is the co-main. I'll look that up in the break. But I think it's one of the other matchups in this tournament. But, yeah, again, Inoue, one of the... I'm not going to say one of the most underrated because boxing media and boxing hipsters have been talking about Inoue for fucking a decade, it seems. But he is still, I think, a hipster's fighter. Like, nobody that's a casual has heard of him. So, cannot wait to see him maybe have a breakout sort of situation here with the World Boxing Super Series, similar to maybe like an Alexander Usyk, who I think genuinely had a breakout performance in the tournament. Maybe Inoue has that factor. Hopefully. Wayne saying, Matt, the big fights will happen. What's your issue? I'm talking about Tevin Farmer versus Gervonta Davis not happening now. That's my issue. That is the fight to make right now. And it's not happening. Do you want me to spell it out for you, each letter? Because I can. I got time for that. But let's go to callers. Mitty, if you want to get on and talk about boxing, you can unmute yourself.
Yo, what's up, Matt?
What up, man?
Hey, thanks for having me, man. And I'm happy that you can take callers now. I know you've been able to take them for a while. But I've not been able to call, but I'm happy, and I see your show is doing well. So, keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
With regards to boxing, hey, listen, I've been out of the loop for the last week and a half or so. But I'm with you on the Errol Spence and Garcia.
Mm-hmm.
If people talked about it, and it's possibly it was going to happen in December, but now they're pushing it back. It tells me that, it's probably not going to happen. And, like everyone else is saying, it probably doesn't make sense for Spence to have that fight. It only makes sense for Mikey. So, yeah, I understand why, it's getting pushed back. I also don't believe that it's like that much of a popular fight to be a pay-per-view event. But, hey, well, we've seen it before, right? We've seen people going up weight classes, and they're exciting names, right? I'm not saying that Garcia is not a good fighter. He's a very, very good fighter. He's a great name, but it's not because you're a great name and a good technical fighter at a weight class that you can just all of a sudden step up and disregard weight classes and fight the guy that is hot at the moment in 2 or potentially 3 weight class above what you should be fighting at. So,
and then on top of that, the short-term memory loss we seem to have as a boxing community. We've had Triple G Brook, Canelo Amir Khan, Loma Rigondeaux. Like, we've had that all within the past 3 years. Like, we should have learned our lesson by now.
those are the recent one, and and people don't want to remember those. But those are like top like fighters, right? So Rigo, arguably for most people, is a pound for pound number one. But that just doesn't mean that you can just naturally go up like 2 or 3 weight classes and then still perform. You can perform against an average opponent, a top class opponent. It's going to be difficult. So, and you said it right. Over the last year and a half or so, we've had like 3 good examples. So, and I'm yet to find a good example of us being proved wrong in saying that, right? You have to go back a long time ago to find that out, right? So,
and even then, it's not like there's that many. Like Juan Manuel Marquez played Mayweather. That's another sign that's sort of pointing in our example. The only one I can really think about off the top of my head is like Roberto Duran when he moved up and fought Sugar Ray Leonard. That's the only one I can think of that's semi-close to that. Even that, I think, is not an apt comparison.
No, I don't think it's an apt comparison. Duran moved up, but to be honest, Duran is like, to me, he was at that weight class, right? So he is a guy that easily is within, like, could be like, he was like the same kind of like weight class as Sugar Ray, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know, man. It's tough to find like the opposite working well without going in and saying, "Oh, Roy Jones did it," but was he fighting like
the best heavyweight? No,
pound for pound. No, it wasn't, right? So, hey, but as I said, I'm with you, and that's pretty much what I have, man.
All right, thank you, Mitty. It's always been a good one. Hope you have a great time in Orlando.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
Peace. Thank you, Mitty. Well, I think that is it for Mitty. Mute yourself. God damn it. Come on. What are you doing here? I mute you for you. Don't worry. You're muted. You're muted, Mitty. Relax. Okay. But I believe that is it for the boxing callers because Santiago has not pressed 1 because he's usually driving at this time. So we're going to head into the MMA portion of the show. Quick transition. Because thank you, Mitty. Always a good time to talk to you and talk boxing, talk shop. Let's hit into the UFC Fight Night Lincoln event. Justin Gaethje versus James Vick. I've been torn on this main event, and I'll be honest, I'm really only going to do a deep dive on the main event. Justin Gaethje, I think, if he was coming off not 2 or 3 Fight of the Year contenders where he's on the losing side and is finished emphatically in all of them, I would be leaning his way. I think he is technically the better striker, even though Justin Gaethje can get wild a little bit in there. His Muay Thai is pretty fundamental if you truly look at it. Plus, I think he is probably the better overall wrestler and grappler than James Vick. But James Vick seems to have all the momentum on his side. Seems to be a guy that is moving in the right direction while Justin Gaethje is not. And I'm conflicted really on can the momentum of James Vick and just that X factor be enough? Because I've talked about this a lot, maybe on the last show I was on, but momentum, like timing for fights can lead so much into the outcome of fights. A guy like Deontay Wilder was peaking when he fought Luis Ortiz. That helped him when he was fighting a guy that good. The fact that he was peaking at that time, professionally, technically, that helps. And then there's obviously moments where it's not the right timing for you. Nonito Donaire moving up and fighting Carl Frampton, obviously not the right timing for him. He's on the downhill slide. And I think Justin Gaethje, again, might be on that downhill slide due to, in no part, mainly because of the punishment he's taken. I can see Justin Gaethje walking through James Vick and hurting him and finishing him in emphatic fashion. And then I can see James Vick be on the outside working his insane reach advantage and height advantage on Justin Gaethje. Make it a grappling affair when he needs to, tire him out, and in the later rounds submit him. I can 100% see that. I'm leaning that way, to be honest. I'm picking James Vick via submission in the 4th or 5th round. But don't be surprised if Justin Gaethje comes out here and gets an amazing win against James Vick. He is that sort of caliber guy where you can never count him out. He has given some of the best lightweights ever tough fights. He gave Eddie Alvarez, who's a borderline, I would probably argue, till I'm blue in the face, that he's a top 5 lightweight of all time. Justin Gaethje gave him a hell of a fight. And obviously, Eddie Alvarez showed that he was just technically levels above. James Vick doesn't have that. James Vick doesn't have that really clean inside boxing work that a guy like Eddie has to really offset Justin Gaethje's dirty boxing. He just does not have that, in my opinion. Again, picking James Vick slightly, I think the momentum is just a huge factor here. Justin Gaethje coming off a long, sort of, even though it's only 2 losses back-to-back, it seems like it's been forever. It seemed like those 2 losses have been another 10 fights with the amount of punishment he's taken. With Dustin Poirier and Eddie Alvarez, again, those are some of the best lightweights on the planet right now. I don't know if James Vick is of that caliber, but I think at this moment in time, he's better than Justin Gaethje. And again, in 2018, at this date, yeah, he is. Moving on to the co-main, Michael Johnson versus Andre Fili. Andre Fili on a couple fight win streak for him. Salute to him. Michael Johnson obviously on a 3-fight losing streak, all against really great competition, to be honest. And a guy that is basically 500 in terms of his career, 17 wins, 13 losses, but has been in the UFC almost his entire career. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here. I think Andre Fili wins this slightly, split decision sort of fight. They both sort of do the same thing. Very freestyle sort of MMA fighters. Good kickboxing with they throw the leg kick here and there. Good roundhouse kick to the body. Decent jabs. Good wrestling and jiu-jitsu. That's pretty standard at this point, let's be honest. But I think Andre Fili is just doing a little bit better at this point. I think, again, momentum, it's on his side. Angela Hill versus Courtney Casey Sanchez. I love this fight, even though their records probably don't show it. Angela Hill, Courtney Casey, some of the better strawweight fighters of the last decade, I would say. It's definitely going to be an interesting style matchup. I think Angela Hill wins it. I think she's the better overall MMA fighter, better grappling, better striking overall, and plus her movement has just gotten better and better as time has gone on. Obviously, being with guys like Dominic Cruz and Jeremy Stevens. Brian Barberena versus Jake Ellenberg. Again, sort of switching back to Michael Johnson. Jake Ellenberg coming off a huge losing streak. I think 4 losses in a row now. His last win was 40 years ago, I believe, or something like that. Some insane number. No, 2016. Sorry, 2 years ago. My bad. And the next win after that was in 2014. It's going to be rough for him. I think even though Brian Barberena is not the guy that he's been losing to in terms of the power puncher strikers like a Mike Perry that Jake Ellenberg has been losing to, Barberena is at least a complete overall package in terms of his transitions from striking to grappling. It's pretty seamless. And Jake Ellenberger is still a little bit of a fighter of the past. He is that wrestler boxer, like that very basic stereotype back in the day, like the Den Henderson type, where you're the very generic wrestler with a good overhand right. Like that's all they have. Brian Barberena, I think, is a better overall grappler in terms of submission grappling. I think, even though he doesn't look like it, I think his striking is highly underrated. So I think he wins this probably within 2 or 3 rounds via submission or potentially knockout. I just don't think Jake Ellenberg wins this. He has not even lasted the last few of his fights. Davison Figueiredo versus John Moraga. John Moraga fighting the undefeated Figueiredo. I have no idea who Figueiredo is. Just being honest, he's undefeated from Brazil. God knows how good this guy is. And John Moraga has been a borderline top 10 guy forever. Former challenger at flyweight in the UFC. So should be a fun scrap. Eric Anders versus Tim Williams. Eric Anders should win that fight, in my opinion, getting probably got robbed a little bit. Definitely controversial, at least, against Lyoto Machida. I cannot wait to really see if he can bounce back from that weird fight with Machida. James Krause versus Warlley Alvarez. Fun fight. I think Krause should win it, even though Warlley Alvarez has really only lost to the top competition. James Krause has definitely a little bit longer in the tooth, but I think Krause is a little bit of a more effective fighter in this game. And a couple other fights I'm just going to briefly mention. Mickey Gall on the card versus George Sullivan. Joanne Calderwood, back in the day, I think she was one of the most highly touted strawweights in women's MMA. And then obviously she really had the up and down UFC career. I believe this fight is at flyweight for her, so that's going to be good. See if she can sort of make a name for herself in that division. Drew Dober versus John Tuck, that should be a fun fight. And Ronnie Yaya versus Luke Sanders. Have to give a shout out to Ronnie Yaya, who follows us on Instagram. And always gives us some love. So, salute to Ronnie Yaya. And one piece of news before we head into MMA college, if there are any, or we wrap up the show. Michael Chandler re-signing with Bellator. So close. We were so close, guys. So close to getting Michael Chandler over to the UFC. It's unfortunate. I believe he never left the negotiation period for Bellator, so I believe the UFC could never send him a contract. It is what it is. It's unfortunate, but Michael Chandler, I hope he gets the bag, So salute to him. Kyle has just called in. I believe he's going to press 1. I'll just go to Kyle now because I know he wants to make his picks for the card, and I believe he's at the gym, so we're going to go to Kyle quickly. Kyle, how you doing, man? Kyle?
Hello?
Yes.
All right, I'll make sure. Are you hearing yourself in my phone again?
No, you sound good.
All right, cool. I think I figured it out. I think my volume on my regular phone was just too high yesterday.
That happens.
Yeah, but yeah, so we got this Lincoln card coming up. Got some tough fight calls to make, but if you don't mind, I'll just start spewing them out.
Go for it.
All right, man. In the main event, like you said, Gaethje, he's got a lot of skills, maybe possibly more skills than Vick does. However, Vick is riding a lot of momentum right now, whereas Gaethje is just...
Hello, Kyle, are you there? Kyle, I think you fell off. So hang up, call back in. I'll wait. It's no big deal. It happens. But I'll quickly talk about one thing as Kyle probably rearranges himself and gets it figured out. And this is sort of off topic, something we haven't discussed about on the show today, but it's been on my mind. It's something I want to rant on a little bit because, you know me, I do like to get into my tea sipping. Hold on, let me get my tea. Hold on. My nice cold coffee tea. Tyson Fury and the rebrand that is Tyson Fury. It is incredible. I've had people argue with me on Twitter that Tyson Fury would beat Luis Ortiz and Dylan White and Joe Miller and school them. That is the worst thing. Oh, Kyle just called in. Let me get into this rant bag after Kyle goes through his stuff. Kyle, you dropped off there, man.
Hello?
Yes, hello. We hear you.
Yeah, man, I don't know what happened. You know how technology loves me, man.
Well, you don't have an iPhone, so I blame you.
I used to have an iPhone, but the storage on that stuff sucks, so I had to go to Android. I did that just this year.
Oh, man, so sad. But Kyle, get into it before your Android decides to shit on you again.
Yeah, man, I'll just be quick about it. So I'm going to take Vick. I think he ultimately just takes a decision, although I'm not too confident about that. Co-main event, I'm going to take Michael Johnson by decision, even though I'm not too confident about that one either. I could definitely see Feely getting the decision as well. But Courtney Casey versus Angela Hill, I'm going to take Casey in that by a close decision. Not too particularly confident in that one neither.
Agree. Those are two fights particularly that I probably have the toughest time picking was the Angela Hill and the Casey fight and the Johnson Feely fight. Like I really settled down in my James Vick pick, even though I think that was a tough fight to pick. But those two fights were tough for me. Those are back and forth, and I have no disagreements with you picking Casey or Michael Johnson. Kyle. Damn, Kyle, man. Shout out to your Android, man. But you could be at the gym, like you've said. I don't know if you want to hang up, call in again, Kyle. I do apologize for your own phone. But let's go to Santiago because he has pressed 1. Santiago, are you going to drop off as well? Santiago. Oh, is it Blog Talk? No.
Hello.
There you go. Yes. Usually unmuting yourself helps.
Yeah, nope. I forget that the microphone I use has a double mute, so I had to unmute the second thing.
Excuses.
Anyways, just barely found the time to actually click one so I could call in and give my opinions on at least the boxing portion of this. I'm not going to give too much thought into the whole Spence versus Garcia thing. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. At this point, it's just hearsay, and to me, that's not really worth talking about for the time being. As for the top-ranked doubleheader with Beltran, Pedraza, and Dogboe versus Otake, I like the matchup, but at the same time, like, it's just, another junior lightweight moving up to lightweight, and I can't see a path for Pedraza to basically, come up and take the fight. I mean, he's a good boxer and all, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, there's a reason why we have weight classes, and I expect Beltran to probably get the stoppage somewhere in the middle to late rounds. I'm looking forward to seeing Dogboe back in action again after that incredible fight he had with God, the name is escaping me.
Jesse
right
Magdaleno.
now.
Jesse Magdaleno. Come on, fam.
Yeah, Jesse Magdaleno.
Come on, he's an LA fighter. He's an LA fighter. What are you doing here? Gunshots for you. Human box wrecked my
ass. It's been a long
ass.
day of driving. It's been a long day of driving, man. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Dogboe in action again and seeing him take it up a notch and show us that he's at the world-class level. And that it wasn't just that moment was his moment, and then he has a Buster Douglas moment. Not saying that he's, like, gotten out of shape, but, like, that was it. That was the fight that got him up, So hopefully we'll see more and more of Dogboe as his career progresses. And, that's really all I have to say regarding this. I don't really have much to talk about regarding the MMA portion of this. Oh, but I will say this much, though, just to this will be my sign-off. Unless you have any questions you want to ask me at this point, just for fun, I'm probably going to pick KSI over Logan Paul on this Saturday's fight.
Oh, my God, I forgot about that. I totally forgot about that. And I'm so glad I forgot about that. And you know what? I'm muting you right now for even mentioning that bullshit. But, yeah, I'm definitely picking KSI, too. Come on, fam. The Paul brothers can fucking go away for all I care. Let's be honest. Mitty said he texted me saying he wanted to come back on and talk MMA and Tyson Fury. But hold on, before you do, Mitty, I want to get through my rant about Tyson Fury, and then I'll come to you. I'm sorry, I saw you. I'm sorry, Mitty. But Tyson Fury and the romanticization of him and how he's the next Ali. And I've talked about this a little bit. I've sort of gone on a rant about this, but I feel like it needs to be addressed because I had some. Well, I think I'm not gonna say well-known boxing Twitter personality, but some boxing Twitter fan, right, that has a lot more followers than I do, decided to make such a fucking stupid comment of when Deontay Wilder beats Tyson Fury, the man, in all caps, the man, he will become the man. And I'm sorry. I am sorry. The two best heavyweights in the world right now is Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. And I don't care which one you want to say first. It could be 1A, 1B. It could be 1 and 2. Wilder can be first. I don't give a fuck. It's them two. And then everyone else in a fucking wide margin to number 3 and 4 and 5. And guess what? that 3, 4, and 5, it's still not fucking Tyson Fury. It's still not that guy. I'm sorry. And just because he beat Vladimir Klitschko 3 years ago does not mean anything in 2018. Anything. I'm sorry. And if your argument is, well, he was the man because he beat the man, that's a fucking stupid argument. You know why? Because the man, which is the lineal champion, was vacated and broken and severed when Lennox Lewis retired. The second that happened, and then it became an arbitrary, hey, well, now it's going to be fucking Klitschko and Shigaev is going to equal the lineal champion. Now, fuck that. I'm sorry. Yes, Klitschko's and both Vitaly and Vladimir were the 2 best heavyweights of their era. That is obvious. But this bullshit argument of lineal champion, and then using that to justify Wilder Fury, and then on top of that, saying that because of that argument, if Wilder beats Fury, he is then the man of the division. I am sorry. You are an idiot, sir, and you have probably no right to talk about the sport. Just being honest.
I want smoke.
Just being honest. But Mitty, you can come on now.
Yo, what's up, Matt?
What up, Mitty?
Yo, hey, man, I don't know what's happening, but I'm agreeing with you too much today, right? So let me tell you one thing. Tyson Fury, before the Klitschko fight, and I'm not saying like years before the Klitschko fight, I'm saying like an hour before the bell sounded. Most of those people that talk to him as the man, the lineal, were making fun of the guy. He was the man known for punching himself in a fight, uppercutting himself, having technical flaws. People say he's not a boxer, he's not this, he's not that. So I agree with you, right? So Tyson Fury did a good thing and a great thing by implementing a game plan against Klitschko and did his thing. It was good. Like, if anything, it showed all those people that talk about him, like that were mocking him before saying that he cannot box. It showed that those guys don't actually understand boxing, right? Because Tyson Fury is not the man. He's not the greatest heavyweight in the world or whatever, but he is a good boxer. He's someone who can use his distance. He's someone who's versatile. He can fight both out of the orthodox and southpaw stance. He's got like very good defensive skills, like his reflexes and just moving from the waist is quite good. But he's like, to me anyway, he's never in that conversation for being the man, the lineal guy or whatever, right? And I think he loses both to Wilder and AJ, and we'll find that out very soon, right, for the Wilder fight. But yeah, that's funny how he automatically became like the number one guy in the division for that one fight. And I'm not trying to discredit what he did. As I said again, he's fought like a brilliant fight. He had a good game plan. But if they fight twice or 3 times, I'm sure that Klitschko will just avenge that loss, right? So, not anymore, right? Because he's retired, but he would have avenged that loss. But yeah, so that was it for this for the Tyson Fury stuff. And you know me also on the MMA stuff. I'm not an expert in MMA. I just wanted to say I like that Amanda Nunes girl. Like, that's the girl that comes with the lion face, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I like her. I like her style. But apart from that, I don't know much about her career and stuff like that. I've seen like 2 fights, I think, from her. Did she fight that Ronda Rousey?
Yes, she did. Yes, she did.
When she came back?
Yes, she did.
Yeah, she demolished her like quickly, right? So
yep.
I've seen that fight, and I've seen another one. I don't know if it was Holly Holmes or something like, but she was good also in that fight. Yeah, and as for the KSI fight and Paul Logan, I don't know both of them, man. I haven't even just gone out and check out what they do. I know, actually, I heard that they're YouTube gamers or whatever, but I've never seen any of them or whatever. But this weekend, I saw I saw a coach at my gym, and who went sparring with that Paul Logan guy, and I texted him. I said, "Yo, how was it? That's the YouTube guy and all that." And he said, "Man, trust me, I'm picking him. He can fight. and he's strong. So, if that's worth anything, at least they've put in the work, and it looks like they're decent. So there you go. That's me, man.
Thank you, Mitty. Thank you. And I made this argument. I forget who it was with. It's at the bare minimum, I think, adding eyeballs to the sport and bringing in potentially young viewers to the sport. And maybe if it's even 10 teenagers who look at KSI Logan because they follow them on YouTube, watch that fight, and then all of a sudden start becoming fans of Lomachenko, Crawford, AJ Wilder, Spence. I think that's a net positive for the sport, to be quite honest. Even though we all know it's a bullshit exhibition fight, that they have somehow leveraged their celebrity in a different industry in this one and then collect the bag off of it. Both probably amendable because it's not amendable, but applaudable because, they figured out the industry and the business like that, and they just copied basically everything that's been done before them. Even the fucking poster they did with all the things they've said on their face. I want to say that was Conor McGregor versus Jose Aldo. I want to say that was that poster. I could be wrong, but somebody can go look this up or somebody can correct me on that. But definitely going to be that thing. And Bayside Boxing, I see in the chat making really stupid points here. I think you're talking to the wrong person, talking about travelers and such, and maybe my perception of them. I'm the guy that is talking about Billy Joe Saunders beating Triple G, beating Canelo, etc. So again, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
I want smoke.
Call in 323-870-4051. I'm here Monday through Friday, every day. You can easily call in and try to talk about this. Instead of just being a YouTube commenter, because people like you and Legendary Boxer, they're one and the same. Let's be honest. But I may finish up with the topic I forgot to actually talk about. With Amanda Nunes, Chris Cyborg, the super fight being announced, being official. I think it's fantastic. I think it's the best fight to make in women's, not only MMA, but probably women's combat sports overall. I think it is the best fight that is out there for that niche sort of demographic or audience. I don't know what it does pay-per-view wise, but she's done, in terms of Cyborg, she's always done pretty well. Same with Amanda Nunes. Floor Jacob, that's funny. I should probably get that soundbite just for that shit. I'm ready. Wilder, I'm ready. No, I should definitely get that's fucking funny. But I just think that Amanda Nunes should be probably the slight favorite in this. But man, that's a preliminary pick. Don't hold me to that. I definitely need to sit down with a lot of tape study and see what Amanda Nunes can bring to the table that other people haven't. I can't wait for it. I'm hyped. That is probably one of the best fights to make, period. Like, not just in women's combat sports. It is up there in my personal fights to make this year, and it's being made. Salute to them. And it's the end year of the card. It's the New Year's Eve card, so to speak. MMA always has a big connection to that date, the New Year's Eve event. Similar to boxing for Cinco de Mayo, Mexican Independence Day weekend. MMA has a couple. Our Independence Day weekend, the U.S., America, so like July 4th, that sort of week, that's always a big weekend, and New Year's Eve, always the biggest. But yes, cannot wait to see that fight. UFC 232, definitely should be a fun one. But that's been it, ladies and gentlemen. Another daily edition of MCR. Hit the like button, subscribe, share the show. We're a completely fan-driven show. You guys are my board of directors. Please email me, mixedcombatradio@gmail.com if you have any critique of this, because you are my board of directors. You are my investors. Patreon.com/mixedcombatradio. Some quick announcement, even though it's not Friday, I don't really have to announce it yet, but I know I won't be here for the Sunday and Monday show. It is my kid's birthday, so yes, I will be busy. We'll be going to San Diego on Sunday, and then Monday is Dinosaur Museum Day because my son's really into dinosaurs right now. So should be fun. But yes, no show Sunday, so no Patreon championship rounds on Sunday. I do apologize. And no Monday show. So that does mean I probably would do something extra on Saturday. Even though I am going to do a live fight chat and immediate reaction for the top rank card and also the Friday PBC card. I'm going to do something extra, I think. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I want to do something extra because I'll be gone the next 2 days. So just want to let you guys know that. Follow me, Matt Hunter, MCR, on all platforms. Mix Summit Radio, all platforms. What else? That's it. Yes, everyone have a good day. Hit the like button, like I say, subscribe, all that YouTube shit. Listen on podcast form, and you most likely listen via iTunes. Leave a review, please. I read all the reviews. Come on. Bugatti, that's a funny inside joke. I like that. But yes, be back tomorrow. Peace.